The search for the right building isn't over, but we need to understand building costs have very much entered the equation. In this episode of the Vertical Community Venture, we're going to talk about architects, builders, and general numbers that we've heard thrown around to help us understand total project costs for a renovation or rehab project. First, let's get caught up on what our goals are here. We're looking for a building that has multiple units or can be converted into multiple units for several families to live in. These families are going to pool their resources to purchase the building and get it renovated to a standard that allows us to have comfort and confidence in the most critical elements that have been known to fall short in Portugal over the years. These things are thermal insulation, noise insulation, good plumbing, and electrical. We're hoping to find something with historical value to keep the charm and not have everything look completely brand new and modern. We want something with outdoor space on a good street in our favorite neighborhood in Porto. And lastly, we're trying to stay under 3,000 euros per square meter on average. Our search criteria has led us to a property on one of our favorite streets in the city and a place that I did a walkthrough in the last episode. If you haven't seen that one, no worries, there's going to be time to watch it and we'll give you a link after this video. It's a beautiful home that needs an incredible amount of work. The owners are very old, we've been told that they don't have any heirs, and they put it up for sale and they're sticking to a very high price that works out to around 2,200 euros per square meter before renovations. Yikes. After the walkthrough, the conclusion was we needed to speak to an architect to understand two general things. The first one is the renovation costs and what they might be, and we need a ballpark number to see if it's worth negotiating. The second thing is if our group will fit based on the layout and what we can do to break up the space and potentially expand the house to the back. In Portugal, it's very hard to get permits to change the facade of a place, so we've ruled that out as an option. And to be quite frank, it wouldn't make much sense to do that anyway. Our buyer's agent reaches out to an architect, JR. We need to get an invoice that needs to be paid before starting work. I'm moments from sending the money and sanctioning the work when I get a message from our buyer's agent. An offer has been put in on the house. What? How could this be? Okay, how much is it and who's put in the offer? We didn't think that many people were that interested in the property due to the high price. Now, before I get into it too deeply, I do need to tell you all that we as a group had a number that we were willing to pay, and that number was 650,000 euros on a property listed for 800,000 euros. We wanted to start negotiations at 600,000 euros, assuming that JR said that we could all fit. Our buyer's agent Nuno tells me that an offer was put in by two local investors that had already done a project on that very street. One guy's a lawyer and the other guy is a builder or an architect of some sort. Either way, he's in the industry. These guys have a clear advantage. They're Portuguese, so there might be some sort of local sentiment, and they've had experience doing exactly what needs to be done because they know the time period of the homes and the risks of them. Although each house is different and filled with different problems and challenges. Okay, so what's the number? They offered 700,000 euros. What? That's 50K more than we wanted to pay and 100K more than we were going to start with in the first place. To beat it all, the owners didn't even counter the offer. They rejected it outright. Now thankfully we hadn't signed anything with JR because, well, that could have been awkward. I would have been like a cyber criminal that sends a text message asking for a reverse payment moments later. All right, his services for this project were going to be 1,780 euros to go to the property, to take measurements, and to do the 3D rendering and create a layout for the various units that we needed. At this point, we don't need to do that. We do know that the rough number for renovations on this project will be in the ballpark of 550,000 euros. Let's add about 10% of that for unexpected things, and now we're up to 600,000 euros to keep the number nice and round. How do we know that it'll be at least €500,000 euros for renovations? Well, we do know that the other builder that's interested in the project quoted that number as well. It's interesting that all the people involved don't mind talking about this stuff. So taking into account the asking price of 800,000 euros and renovations of upwards of 600,000 euros, that's an ARV or after repair value of 1.4 million euros, which doesn't make sense for this place right now, or maybe ever. Well, okay, maybe not ever, because values do tend to go up over the long term, but it would be hugely speculative. If you enjoy content like this, or you're interested in moving to Portugal or living abroad, please consider subscribing as a way to help you on your journey. So building costs and where this leaves us. I've had conversations with 4 different industry professionals about the numbers on the construction side, and they're giving me a little bit different version of things. One of them I met through a mutual American friend. He's Portuguese, he has an office in Banksy, he's an architect, and works with builders on a regular basis. He said, why pay 800 euros per square meter for a project that could cost 500 euros per square meter? I don't like spending money just for the sake of it. If I can get away with using a less expensive flooring that actually fits the application of the project better, I would rather save money there and put money to use in other places. I like this approach, to be honest, and who wouldn't? The numbers he was giving sort of match what the others said, but essentially he was saying it's possible to go cheaper. I'm not sure if that matches what we'd like to do though. 2 of the others that I spoke with, an award-winning architect with incredible projects in the city and a builder that works with JR, both agreed that the kinds of buildings that we're looking at and the types of finishings that I'm describing to them, we'd better be ready for 1,000 to 1,500 euros per square meter. Just to let you guys know that Kalie and I invest in real estate, and it's one of our main forms of investing. We do, however, love art, and we've invested in it over the past few years. I learned about Masterworks about a year ago and thought it was a really cool idea and different from the kinds of art purchases that I've made because it's investing in fractional shares of well-known artworks. Now, if you've been following the stock market lately, you've seen just how quickly things can change. Everyone wants to try to shield your money from inflation, right? But you also want it to work for you. And usually investing in the right stocks and bonds could make it easier to save up. But it may be time to consider adding real assets to your portfolio that can retain value or even gain value in times of crisis. The last time inflation was this high, between 1973 and 1981, only 3 assets outpaced the inflation rate. Out of those 3, contemporary art appreciated at an average rate of 20.3%. With Masterworks, you can invest in fine art by legends like Picasso and Monet without spending millions of dollars on an entire painting. Their last 3 fetch net returns of 10.4%, 35%, and 13.9%. Nearly 600,000 people have signed up so far, and with inflation still high, the list is growing. But our viewers can get priority access by using the link in the description section below. So now I'm equipped with this number, and I'm using it wisely according to the condition of the buildings that we're looking at. For example, we've seen a couple of projects with pips on them, and one in particular is just about a complete rebuild that's got to be that 1,500 euros per square meter number that I need to base the project off of. Does that mean it'll definitely be that number? No, but it'll likely be that number or maybe a little less. Here's something super important when it comes to building projects. It's crucial to keep in mind that there's a big difference between the total area of construction and the area that's actually usable or livable. It's like comparing apples and oranges. The total area is often referred to as the gross area, and the usable is known as the net area. And trust me, this is a huge difference, and this can have a huge impact on how much the project will cost and what the average prices will be. As the project manager, it's on me to make sure that the team is aware of this and to explain it clearly so that they can get a better understanding of the overall scope of the project. Why is this important? Well, it's important because when you're talking about buying an apartment, you're giving the gross area of the property as well as the livable square meters. But let's be honest, as a buyer, you're really only interested in the livable square meters. And that's the number you're going to use to figure out how much your unit costs per square meter, and thus base your comps on and know if you're getting a good deal and buying right. Buying a building, you're fixing up a lot of area that simply won't end up being owned really by any particular person, yet it'll factor into the cost of the unit and affect the price per square meter of the unit. So how much of the portion of the stairs or building's hallway is unit A versus unit B, and who actually owns it? That's the mess that's hard to explain, figure out, and agree among owners. Nobody wants to feel cheated or like they're not getting good value. This is something I've got to help figure out and manage going forward. There's also the trick in how to value other common areas, gross area that is useful but not count as livable area, and livable areas that aren't as nice as other livable areas. Let me give you an example of this. Let's say that we have storage space in the basement of our building. Each unit has a large storage locker, and that locker or space is assigned to a unit. It's tricky to know how to value that and communicate that to investors. Or let's say a patio space, a balcony, or private garden. It belongs to the unit, however, it's not factored into the livable space, but you better believe that it adds value. The question is, how much? Or how about a unit that has part of the livable space in a basement with a recessed window, or a mezzanine area that doesn't have the same ceiling height as maybe other units of the same square meters in the middle floors? Not all square meters are the same. Some square meters are nicer than others. We all know this, but agreeing on the value of it is different. It's an obstacle that I know I will have to hurdle sooner rather than later, and I've been doing a good amount of research on it and how it relates to Portugal. But unfortunately, I don't have a hard and fast rule to go by yet. If you're new to this series, get caught up on all the episodes by clicking here, and I'll see you in the next one. But until then, let's get moving. Bye.